remember driving home that day in my purple Nissan Micra that was worth about $1,000 at the time. I remember driving home thinking, my whole mind has just been turned around. Put knowledge as the most important part, but it's not. At 18 years old, I put all my savings into trading. You know, only a small percentage of people would even do that. So I had something in me. I just needed someone to unlock the rest of it.
Love it. I have a couple of questions to ask you, and all of us have some.
But we have many.
Yeah, I will start with something like, can you explain me your story? Like, because yesterday you were talking about the fact that for real, like, what's being broke and being wealthy, right? Tell me about the beginning, your starting point.
Yeah, sure. So my starting point was 2008. So you saw the stock market crash. And I was studying to be an engineer at the time. So I was going to work my way up to be, my brother's an architect, my sister is a surgeon. And it was very, certificate based, like lawyer, doctor, that kind of route. So that was, I'm going to go down the engineering route. And I wouldn't say I was passionate about engineering, but from family pressures and culture, as I'm sure you can all imagine, it's like, this is what you need to do. You need to impress the family. It was very much like that. So I was like, right, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm studying for about a year and I'm going to college at the same time. And then out of nowhere, they decide we're going to make the whole office redundant. So they get rid of about 90% of the staff and all of the main top managers. They go to, like the capital office. So they look after those and everybody else is,
That's crazy. Yeah.
They just get rid. So I'm nearly 18 years old. And I'm thinking, what do I do at this stage? So then me and Ibrahim that you've met, so we go to London. We go to London and we find these seminars in like these Hilton hotels where they're talking about trading. I was like, what's trading? And it was all about commodities and different things. And Ibrahim, as you know, so he had studied a bit about commodities at university and stuff like that. But what we went into was a completely different world that I'd never even understood. And it was all about, stock trading, Forex trading, options, futures, all of that kind of stuff. So I just decided, right, I've saved up enough. I've got enough to pay for this course. It's roughly about 5K. But that was 90% of what I had in the bank. I didn't come from any wealth. I know what it's like to have nothing.
Yeah.
So, but I said to myself, I don't want to be in this vulnerable position again where they can just say, do you know what? We're making you redundant. That's it. That's you done. And I made a commitment. The only way to do that is to put my money where my mouth is. So I said to my brother, I'm going through it. I'm doing it. So I paid for the course, and then I started learning how to trade stocks.
And how was the transaction? How did you move from stocks to actually trading Forex?
Well, a very good story, and I'll keep it very brief. So with stocks, I used to do a typical like volume power plays and essentially just target stocks that had a daily volume of about 500K. And then we would get into a particular entry. It would just be kind of in and out. But I grew an account, and I roughly had about a couple of K in there. I grew an account to roughly around 10K. And I don't know if you remember, and this was on Bloomberg, this was everywhere. This was MF Global. So MF Global at the time, they went into liquidation. So I grew my account to roughly around 10K, and then I saw it on the news that they was going into liquidation. So as you can imagine, I'm logging into my account, and then because my brother gave me the call and said, "Have you seen what's happened on the news in MF Global?" And at this time, as you can imagine, guys, it's too late. It's too late at this point. Trying to log in, nothing. And I just thought, oh no, everything I'd built up. Even though looking back, the risk was awful. I was risking way too much, and whether it was, numbers didn't catch up with me yet, eventually I probably would have lost that and it would have gone the other way. However, emotionally, I've still built 2K to 10K and I've never made money before. So that is a big, big deal. And for a period of time, I would say a good 3 months, I was, burying my head in the sand, not too happy about it. And then eventually I get a phone call saying, have you considered signing up to our Forex course? And then I just had the thought and thought, what's the difference? Like, as in, if I can do this with stocks, what is there like a key thing? And when I started looking through the criteria, because I was generally trying to raise more money to then try and learn how to do Forex. And I realized it's the same stuff. It's the same stuff. So then I went on with I've got it somewhere in here. I've got my stocks manual that I had from 2008. I'll send you guys a picture after. You'll see.
Yeah.
So I went through that and thought, how could I apply this to Forex? And I essentially started applying everything I learned from a stock perspective and see, does this work with foreign currency? Does it work with gold, silver, soybean, sugar, wheat? I would like, go through everything, indices, and I traded the DAX for a period of time. And I found that I could, but I stripped back about 90% of everything I learned and went, ultra simplistic. And that worked out really well.
Amazing.
Awesome.
So your story is really, really inspiring because you actually went all in. You said that you invested 90% of what you had in the course in order to learn something, learn a skill that will give you possibly money in the future, but you didn't know if that was actually going to happen. So you just went all in and you bet on yourself. How was that? Was it hard to make that decision? Was it hard to actually say, okay, I'm betting on myself right now. I can do this. I will invest most of what I have in order to build something greater? Or what was going through your mind?
Honestly, it's a very simple decision for me. So, and I'll send you this screenshot as well, and we can use it for, B-roll, whatever we like. I signed my signature 2015, financially free. I've got my name, I've got my signature. This is when I'm financially free. Bearing in mind, this was 2008. So look at the mindset there. I was willing 2015. So subconsciously, I said to myself, I'm doing this. Like no matter what, I don't care if it takes me 5 years, 6 years, like I accept this is the life I want to live now. So I went all in with that. And I had an estimated, I think it was roughly like £15,000 a month. That's what I wanted to make. Okay. And that was like my goal. But then 2008, I'm like, I've not made any money yet. So the thought of even 5K a month was incredible. So then what I actually did, October 2014, so very close to that date, and I forgot about this, by the way, that was when I started to make that type of money and things started to change for me. What was so interesting is that I couldn't tell you that I looked at that date every day, every year, and remembered it. It just happened. Right. So whether that's a complete coincidence or not, who knows? It happened. It happened regardless. So it happened just before. But the decision was simple for this one reason. Coming from a situation where, so a bit of a backstory. So my dad, he unfortunately had an accident when I was 5 years old. So he had a stroke, and he is paralyzed still today. He's paralyzed in the right side of his body. So he was very, confident, business, traveled a lot, he had great work ethic. So I probably learned a lot of things from him on that respect. But very quickly, life turned upside down. So from age 5, you become an adult. As I say, like very quickly, you're almost 7 years old. I'm a fully grown man from responsibilities. So for me, I would always assess my situation as we don't come from wealth. We're not living in the best situation. My mum gave up her whole life to look after my dad, full-time carer. I have to repay them somehow, no matter what. So nothing was for me. So that's why it's very easy to, all the money, let's just put it into this. And eventually I can get them out of their situation. And one day I can buy them their dream home. I can do everything that I need to do. So that was the motivation. That was the why. So really and truly, any struggle, what struggle? Because I actually have something at the end. It's not like I was aiming for a Ferrari where you can talk yourself out of it. Eventually, the reason for the Ferrari, the justification won't be that strong. And you'll just be like, do you know what? Maybe a Lexus is okay. Like you'll dilute your dreams when things get a bit difficult. But for me, it's like, no, I have to get them out. I'm a failure as a son, as a son in the house. If I don't get them out of this situation, then that's a fail for me.
It was either I do that or I try, like that kind of approach. Yeah,
that's a truly inspiring story, actually.
Yeah,
really, really powerful. Yeah. Do you want to go ahead with anything?
Yeah, I have a question. Talking about Forex trading,
yes.
Do you remember your first strategy? And if so, is it so different from the strategy you are using now?
A good question. Honestly, it's actually very, very similar to what I learned back then. Just a lot of it stripped back. So I was, how do I want to put it? Support is a combination of things. So sort of support and resistance, pattern identification, Fibonacci, EMAs, like all the kind of usual stuff that you would learn early on, trend lines, etc. So I had all of that jumbled into one, and it would be things like you're essentially taking 20 pip stop, 20 pip profit target using the 30-minute chart on a moving average on like a 50 or 20 and like all different things like that. So there were just strategies to essentially when something's trending, you're getting in, getting out, getting in, getting out. And really and truly, I was like, this is it worked sometimes, and the strategy is robust. It still works to this day. But what I found is a lot of the times I would get into good trades and I would cut them really short, and then I would always go back over my trades that I would took and see if I would have held that for longer, it would have made more money. And not from like a hindsight point of view, but from a point of view is that part of the strategy, like a pattern, would have filled that. So I started removing slowly. I was like, right, support, resistance. I'm feeling like this is not really as accurate as what people are making out. So I would get rid of that, get rid of this. So I was like, Fibonacci, I can look at the 618, I can look at the 50% and see roughly when the market pulls back. It's a good zone. Get rid of that, don't need it. And then I started to notice that I was getting into similar trades, but I didn't need everything else. So I literally stripped it all the way down to just patterns, literally just patterns. And then I thought, well, if it's just going to be patterns, I need to go deeper into patterns. So say for something, for example, really simple, like an ascending channel. What I saw as an ascending channel, I would see like these other patterns within the patterns, which would actually give a estimated different edge. And that's what most people would never even look at. So they would be like, wow, it's just a Google search, chart patterns. Everybody knows that. It's like you think you know it, but you don't know it situationally. So what I mean by that, if you take an independent isolation of a channel on the 10-minute chart or on a 1 hour chart, that means nothing in the sequence of the higher time frame. So it's like, where are we positioned in the market? And I went very, very deep into that. So I kept it very simple, using pattern identification and probably a bit of waves theory, without even realizing I was like doing it unconsciously. I would essentially capitalize on waves. And the interesting part about this is that I got connected with an Elliott wave trader, and we would jump on Skype calls. It was like, oh, it's really interesting. You studied Elliott wave. I was like, no, I haven't. So then I started studying Elliott wave because I realized, impulse correction, it was like very similar on that regard. But I've kept it very, very simple.
I have a question to connect to this. So I do a little introduction. I follow you since a very, very long time. Actually, I was not following your page, but I know of you since a very, very long time because we were one of the first pages, I would say, one of the first few pages that were growing way back, when there were not so many pages on Instagram. And I really, really found the things that you were sharing so useful for people. I believe that you were just sharing so much value. So I've known of Falcon FX and of Mark since a very long time. And the thing is, the Forex space, it changed so much in the past years, and I want to go a bit controversial about the Forex space. A lot of trends started, a lot of people are talking about smart money trading, a lot of people are talking about institutional trading, about how the banks trades, and I know that you, of course, mastered certain patterns and a certain type of analysis. Did it happen to you that many people come to you and they're like, oh man, there is this smart money thing. All the people that don't use smart money are behind, and all of these things. Because I have my opinion, and if I can go ahead, I will just say what I think. I did change my strategy slightly, and I adapted it with some smart money concepts. But the thing is that I kept saying over and over on my Instagram stories, on my YouTube videos, that smart money is just one of the many ways in which you can find an edge in the market. And there are all these people that just believe that now smart money is the way, and still 95% of the traders are still losing. Exactly. And they think that the other things, they don't work anymore, that they are bullshit basically. But I believe that you can find your edge with indicators, with patterns, with smart money. In any way, you just need to find your way to have your edge in the market. So I wanted to ask you, how was your approach to this with all these trends that came, and with all the people that, I don't know, they get a little bit upset when you tell them
of
that.
Course, yeah. do you know what? I actually approached it very simply. Firstly, I just saw it as this. I've always been taught this. I'm so grateful. I had some good mentors growing up, which is follow the money. Right? If you're going to find someone who is in incredible shape and you want to get into fitness, you're not going to go and find the overweight person. They might have lots of knowledge, but but you're not going to find the fat trainer. That's just the truth. You're going to find someone who is shredded, say, right, you must know the answers. So you must know something. And I took that on board as to, there's always these new strategies. It's like a trend every single year, something comes up. There's always, it's that how we're biologically wired, that something, it happens in property, it happens with Airbnb. It's in every industry, there's something. And it's because people know out there, fundamentally, people are wired to have a little bit of part of them of hope, a bit of a gamble of something. So there's always going to be an allure to something. So I looked at it like this, you're not making any money. So it doesn't matter what strategy you're trading. Secondly, most of these people don't own a calculator. So I was like, right, so let's go by your logic. Your logic is that people would come to me and say, yeah, but I made 40% in this trade, so this is how I'm going to do it. I said, okay, fine. Well, you are estimated to be worth 12 million at the end of the year. You know, so show me your 50K account that's turning 12 million at the end of the year. And I was like, no, you're still in the same position.
Yeah.
And then they would show me something else. I was like, well, I use this strategy and now I'm a funded trader by like FTMO or something. I was like, fine.
Right.
I'd look at it and say, why have you taken 112 trades to make 10%?
Right.
That's disgusting. That's disgusting. I was like, if I was an investor and I was to look at your trade, I was like, you're a good trader apparently, but you're taking 112 trades just to make 10%. But you're arguing with me that your strategy makes 40%, you know, before you've made your coffee in the morning. So it still doesn't make sense. And
right,
then we can go on the compound interest calculator, even forget 40%. Let's just do 20% every month without fail. And we know trading doesn't work like that. Sometimes you have a break-even month. Sometimes even a competent trader can lose that month because monthly means nothing. It's over the we measure quarterly anyway, but even over the year, you know, you could have a really bad 3 months and still have an incredible year.
Right.
So I would look at that. Why are the stats the same? Why, when you go to something like My Forex Funds and they release the numbers as to even people that have record payouts that have had a 50K, 70K withdrawal, why do they lose their account 3 weeks later?
Right. Yes.
So people just don't do the maths. And I think you can all agree, and you probably know why, is because it's a lot easier to fantasize and live in hope that, do you know what? But I have made 40%. So this is where they delude themselves.
Right.
It's real, you know, because if they've made 40% on $1,000, how can you argue with that person and say, yeah, but you on £1 million? They're like, no, I don't understand what you mean. I've done it. So you're full of shit and I'm making the money. I was like, yeah, but you're doing it on $1,000. So it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
When the way your mind changes as you have more money and you want to protect the capital, you care about risk. Listen, we could all put a 5K account in a broker and we could all mess around with it and probably turn it into 50K, you know, like by having a few trades, a bit of risk, a bit of leverage here and there. Doing that same strategy on $500,000, we would have a different approach.
Of course.
Why? Because we have a value attached to it and we treat it differently. So I think that's the part of the industry that is a bit lost and living in clown world.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I completely agree. Even though I incorporated in my strategy, my strategy that I was using in the beginning, I incorporated some smart money concepts, but just because I backtested them and I found that they were going well together with what I was using. And, you know, as I said, you can be profitable with one or the other, just without being so delusional about all the things that, you know, these people say 40% in one trade, 1 to 50 restored ratio, all of these things. I just found that statistically my strategy could have been slightly better with some concepts. But the thing that I love and I wanted to share is that on my stories on Instagram, I love to mess around with people because they know that they know that in my strategy there are some smart money concepts, whatever they want to call it. And when they ask me on the question and answer that I put in the weekend, they ask me, oh, what do you think about smart money, Edward? Or is smart money really profitable? I always answer, no, it's not. It's not profitable. Smart money is not profitable. Smart money is not even a strategy. These are just some concepts, and you need to find a way to put them together between these concepts, or put them together with other concepts, or just leave them on the side and you just use other concepts and find your edge. So, and people get so pissed at me, but that's the fun part of the game sometimes.
Exactly. I mean, it's I guess a lot of vulnerable people that really want to believe that there are these hoaxes out there.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I know quite a few traders that I've met over the years. If I showed you the way they trade, you would think this is laughable. This person knows nothing about the industry. It barely even knows like the simple stuff, but they
Right.
make money. They make, and it's almost, this is a bit controversial, right? But if you was to look at their analysis, you'd think this person knows nothing. He knows like 10% of like what the technical picture of what they need to know. But their mindset is just so on point.
Yeah.
Right.
They just don't get affected by anything. So if someone else would kind of come around with their ego and be like, what about this? What about this smart money concept, or this fair value gap, or what about these demand zones, and what about this pattern, for example?
Right.
Like just any, or this wave theory, this is in the B wave. And they're like, B wave? I don't even know what a wave is. They're like, I buy, I sell, got a great mindset. They stick to their rules and that's it. And it's
Right.
kind of, it's kind
Yeah.
of funny. It's because we've been sold in this industry that the more knowledge you have, the richer that you will be. But we already know that's false, because it's very well documented that the statistics have not changed.
Yeah.
It's the
You know,
same.
Exactly.
you
exactly.
said something great. I think that it's really important to articulate, because the thing is that 90% of people, and I'm not an expert like you two guys, but I've seen these, as I was explaining to you like yesterday, from the mindset perspective, right? And like these kind of examples you're giving about traders that maybe know less but stay consistent and profitable, is because they worked on themselves. While I'm seeing in trading or in any industry, basically, the trends, the new thing, the new shiny objects coming out every year, and people just never question the fact, maybe I'm not making money because of me. And they think like, oh yeah, it was because Edward doesn't explain stuff good. Now let's buy this program on smart money concept. It will change my life. And they expect like the solution to be outside. So I think this was a really like great point you made about the difference on the mindset part, even if you have less information.
Definitely. I would go as far as saying there will be people, I'd rather take someone that just knows support resistance. Imagine that's all they know. They
Yeah.
don't know they've never heard of 618 fib. They don't know it. They just know this is support, this is resistance. I'm like, right, when it gets to there, buy. When it gets to here, sell. Right, when you see these rejection candles, like maybe a bit of candle shape formation. And that's it. No EMAs, no nothing. And they do it, and that's all they know. If they have an incredible mindset, they'll make more money than someone who knows everything. So
Absolutely.
the value order, if you was to stack the value order, we put knowledge as the most important part, but it's not. Because you could imagine this, imagine the most technical trader that you meet, and they show you all this stuff, and you're like, wow, you're like a wizard, you know everything. But the individual is anxious. Imagine they suffer with a lot of anxiety. Would you give them money? You'd be like, in a simulated environment, you'd be like, wow, this trader's a god, knows everything. But you know deep down is a nervous wreck. Would you then would you invest your £1 million with that person? So
Never.
Under pressure, you have to perform and you have to stick to that strategy. And maybe you have to take 7 losses before you take a win. Are you mentally okay when that happens? And he's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not. Well, I can do it in a simulated environment. Well, of course you could. We can play Monopoly as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same stuff.
Let's talk about the pressure thing. Based on your story, because you told us it was really intense. You're trading since 15 years ago, if I'm right. So how did you, how did you face the biggest pressure in these last 15 years? If you have a story to tell, is there any moment you were so under pressure and you had to face it and overcome it? Okay.
Yeah, and the universe rewarded me. So
Okay.
I would say there was one time where I almost caved under pressure. Not fully, but what I did is, and this is so interesting because my mum used to cry because she used to see, your brother's this, your sister's this, the rest of your family have this. You're still doing all these different jobs and you're like trading. I don't know what trading is. Why don't you just get a job? Why don't you get back into like construction, maybe engineering again or something? And I was like, no, and eventually I go for this job interview with a company called Bovis Homes, a big house builder in the UK. And it was between 3 people, and they said, right, we're gonna offer you this job. It's gonna be £15,000 a year. So imagine then it was still not that much, but this was 1 day a week at college, almost like the same setup that I had with WSP Group when I was working as an engineer the first time. And then I was like, okay, cool. So I just kind of get forced into it a little bit where I feel under pressure. I'll go and have the interview. They ring me up, say, Mark, you got the job. Congratulations. And truthfully, part of me was a little bit happy, not because I wanted to give up on trading. It's just I was happy to say it to my mum, but they said on condition that we win this contract for 2,000 homes. I was like, oh, okay. So they wanted me to be an architect, not an engineer. I was going to be an architectural apprentice. So I could use AutoCAD. You know, I was familiar with the program, 3D design. So it made sense. You know, I could pick this up and go college again. I can learn it. And then we go into a mini recession, like a mini one in the UK, and then they make all of their staff redundant. So the same, before I'd even got the job, the same thing happened again.
Oh, crazy.
And then a few months later, I make to the penny, and I remember taking my friend to the cash point, £15,000 in one trade.
Really?
That's great.
£15. I got my old screenshot of the debit card, £15,000.
What you should have made in 1 year, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that
crazy.
to me was a sign. And I said to my mum, I said, look, never ask me again.
Yeah.
Even if that was risky or whatever, but it could have been 18,000. Why was it 15? Why was it the exact number?
Yeah.
And it was almost like the universe telling me, you're not built for this to go in 9 to 5 every day to just accept a mediocre return. Remember, you got your family to take care of. So this was like a message for me, like, get on with it. Good things are going to play out for you.
And how many years of experience you had at that point?
About
Couple of years? 7 years? Okay.
Yeah, but it was like approaching the 7-year period. It's very, very close.
And the biggest trade until that moment, what was that?
Oh, just like 2K, like £1,800 here and there, like nothing
That's
crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because, 7 years, like people expect you to go crazy in 6 months.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have to understand like the perspective.
Sometimes the expectations of people is too high, but at the same time, I would say that people like, I don't know, like you and I, in the past, there were not so many sources that where you could have learned from. Most of the things you needed to learn them from the market, actually.
You make a very valuable point. That I think that's what it was, because I wasn't surrounded by, what you see online now. There's like a guru every 5 seconds.
Right.
I didn't have that. I wasn't even on Instagram. So you can imagine all I'm doing is learning. I'm not distracted by posting on Instagram, making YouTube videos. And there's nothing wrong with YouTube because I do YouTube as well. But at that time, I wasn't distracted by anything. It was just trading. I didn't see, John Smith made £17,000 withdrawal in FTMO and then start comparing myself. It didn't exist. So all I knew was I didn't know anyone as a trader. And I think that was a bit of an advantage that I had, because I wasn't influenced by all of the smoke. And you know what? Maybe I would have got influenced. I actually can't tell you the answer. If I would have seen this person's made 50K, this person's made 20K, I actually understand why people do get influence, which is why I always talk about you have to work on your mindset. If you don't work on your mindset, and I'm very practical with it, you're finished. You're going to do this dance for about 10 years, you still won't make any money.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
do you have a mentor, Mark? Or have you ever had one, not only about trading, about, I don't know, business, life?
Yeah. I had one, right? His name is called Darren, and he's an incredible mentor. Still keep in touch, like really, really great guy. He mentored me. So when I was around 21, I worked in London. I worked in Canary Wharf, worked in there for about 4 or 5 years. And when I was in London, that changed my whole framework of the way that I think. So I already had it in me to be ambitious. 18 years old, I put all my savings into trading. Only a small percentage of people would even do that. So I had something in me. I just needed someone to unlock the rest of it. So I didn't know how to think, and I would say things that I didn't realize that were very negative, and he opened my mind up to that. It was a very successful individual, carried himself very well, very chivalrous, gentleman, like old, very traditional person. Yeah. And I remember he said to me, Mark, he's like, you want to be serious in life and you want to achieve success? He said, show me your list of goals. And I said, I don't have any. I was like, what do you mean? I got them up here. He's like, you can't work from mind, you have to work from document. And I was like, okay, what do you mean? So he showed me his journal, and literally a big A4 journal stacked with just goal after goal after goal in so much detail. Not, I want to get into the gym, I want to build a business. Excruciating detail, to the point I would read it and go, you already have it. He's like, no, I haven't got it yet, but I write it as if I already have it. So he changed the way that I talk and the way that I think about things, which is why I remember I said, and I've told this story a few times, but I think it will help the audience for context. Most people, if you ask them, how are you? They would reply, not bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more of a UK thing, but they would say
No.
No.
It's worldwide.
it's probably universal.
Yeah.
They would say not bad, or that their body language will just be like this.
Yeah.
They're very negative. And he said, why would you use negative words for no reason to try to explain a positive emotion? And that moment there, that was the moment that I remember driving home that day in my purple Nissan Micra that was worth about $1,000 at the time. I remember driving home thinking, my whole mind has just been turned around. I was like, everything I've learned up until this day is wrong. The way that I think, the way that I associate, I would see the word discipline as like a negative thing.
Right.
The word pressure, I would see, if that person's under pressure, that's negative. I had to change the way that I think, and he showed me the way. So I would say he taught me how to think, and from that day on, I would write differently, talk differently, dress differently, speak about myself differently. He would say, "Don't joke about yourself." He's like, even if your subconscious brain doesn't know the difference, like, don't do that.
Yeah,
I would be very, even when my friends would say, "Mark, we're going to go to this place," even if I had no money, I would never say, "Oh, I've got no money." I would say, "I'm busy. I've got things to do." Even I know I don't have money. Why do I have to tell the universe I don't have no money?
Exactly. Sure. Absolutely. Because your subconscious learned that.
Yeah.
And keep.
And I'm glad that we are connecting and we're talking about this, because I see and I believe that it applies to all of us. But everything changed. Also for me when I started seeing things differently, because until a certain point you're like, "Oh, man, I'm alright, not so bad."
Exactly.
Fuck these things, they're so annoying, a lot of negative energy. And then there is a certain point, not for all people, but the ones that do it, there's a certain point where you start and actually decide that you will switch around your life, you will start seeing things differently, and you're like, and you start changing the way that you speak to yourself, the way that you speak to others, and automatically your mind changes and your actions change as well, and therefore your results change in the end. So
exactly.
So
Let me ask you something.
I'm so glad we're talking about it.
Yeah, here in this office it's forbidden to complain.
Yeah,
to have negative thinking.
Yeah,
like,
to have negative
go outside,
energy.
take a walk.
Yeah.
Sorry if I repeat. Are you mentoring someone?
Am I mentoring someone right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Yes. So I have a lot of students in. So we have a community of traders, and I mentor them. From a weekly basis. I mentor them from lots of different things. Like we meet in person. We have meetups. We have our 6-year anniversary coming up, of course, as you guys know, on the 10th of February.
Yeah.
So I would say the mentoring goes there, but I go very deep with it. So I have a lot of one-to-one conversations. Like I'm always there. I'm very hands-on in that approach. Like I know my students very well. Like I know what goals they have. I know what number I know how much they need to quit their job. Like I'm very, very aware. I won't remember every single detail, but like I'm very fully invested, and that's important to me because I know what it feels like to not have a lot of people believe in this as a real thing.
Yeah,
right.
And because I've done all the hard work, I've done it, even with a lot of people questioning. I feel like I have the resilience to just know every emotion they will go through. So there's not really a situation a student could come to me and say, "Do you know what, Mark? I've been doing this for 4 years and I've not made money." I'm like, "Well, try 7." There's nothing I've not experienced, and I didn't complain the way through. Even when my brother used to say after like a couple of years, "Mark, you made any money yet? Or how much you made this month?" I would just say nothing. He'd be like, "Oh, are you not annoyed?" Not like trying to be negative. He'd just ask it. You've been doing this for a long time. For his mind, he can't understand why money has not been made. It's like, well, I would say I'm just getting closer. I'm getting closer.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize I was programming myself to stay positive.
Yeah.
So I would be lying if I said I sat there with my head down crying. I didn't. I was just like, right, I didn't make any money. Let's go again. Let's go. I had like a resilient mindset to just keep going because I knew at the end of the day, I've got to explain to my mum who gave up her whole life to look after my dad, that dream home.
Yeah.
I can't, I just, what excuses am I going to come up with? I have to push through. So I think it was the why of my purpose and my reasons that pushed me through. And I've done that today. So on my land right now, I've built it 2 years ago. So they have a 2-bedroom bungalow on my land. So I look after them forever. So
that's great.
The goal got ticked off.
That's great.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. Let me ask you something about, I want to jump right back, but first, this lesson you just shared, I think is one of the greatest about changing the perspective for people listening to this podcast.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, just asking yourself, and I apply this so much. This is the reason why I love this thing. Am I closer or not? Like, did I just build another brick? Did I just build another piece to get to that situation? It really changed the perspective and how you feel about what just happened, because you can either learn, move forward, but there is no such thing as, oh my God, I lost that. Oh my God, I did a mistake. No, I learned and I moved forward. But I wanted to ask you, talking about that moment when you had that mindset switch, right, from your mentor, I guess you didn't have like crazy results the next day. It was like a process, right?
Of course.
To get used to. Did you change, or did you decide to change? Did you have to change your circle of friends, the closest people you were with before? How did it change? Did you isolate yourself? What did you do about that?
Isolation was straight away, but boundaries were clear. I would say change, and this is I think a lot of people get this confused, and this is my belief, that change happens almost instant, but the results take longer. So for example, imagine the person who's like massively overweight. They don't change over a period of time. They literally walk into the kitchen, get the chocolate, get the crisp, and they chuck it out. It's like, it's aggressive. There is an intensity about change as a decision in your head that I now don't identify as someone who's overweight. I'm healthy. This is the new me. This is day one. This is what I'm going to do. And then they do it. Those that can do it for long enough, eventually they break their old beliefs. But the results, of course, they're not going to lose weight overnight. It takes time. So for me, that decision there was like, I am not this person anymore. I'm now this version. And I just need to now believe it enough. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that I know over a period of time it will play out. So I realized, right, all of my childhood friends, they don't think like this. No one comes from money. How do I do that? I don't just want to isolate myself from my friends. However, I was very good at, like traders, they suffer with FOMO.
Yeah.
A lot of people suffer with FOMO. I've never really suffered with FOMO. And I think the reason why is because it's all personality driven. I've never really had this fear of like, if they was going to a party and then I had to look after my family, I wouldn't really care. I would just be like, okay, you're going like this, but Mark, this was the best party, you missed it. I kind of just wouldn't care. Not from a perspective that I didn't want to go, but I didn't have that inside of me that I really wanted to miss things, So I think I didn't so much about fear of missing out when it came to trades. So I would be able to just be, I'd able to use that to fuel. I would look at it and go, I missed the trade. Do I understand the trade? So yes, I understand the trade. And I used to tell myself, one day I'm going to be skilled enough and mentally equipped enough that I will also be in those trades. It would be worse if I didn't understand the position. So I used it as a coping mechanism. But going back to your question, inner circle changed very, very quickly because I just spent so much time by myself. Because I realized in order for the negative programming to not think that way again and not say these things like not bad, can't complain, all of that garbage, I have to almost go alone. And I think every individual at a certain part in their life have this time of isolation where they stop doing parties, drinking, like something happens for them where they just get this tunnel vision focus, and then all the change happens and they become a different person.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, this story is great because this is really the way to succeed in many different areas. It's not just because we are trading, it's not just because we are traders or we own businesses and whatever. It's just in general, when you want to do something and you are a person that hasn't achieved that something so far, it means that you need to change as a person. It means that this person that you are right now didn't achieve this. So you need to be a different person to achieve that goal. Therefore, of course,
definitely, Edward, you reminded me of something that Marco said earlier, which is about mentors. One of the mentors that I think are very valuable until this day, quite a few people, but the one that springs to mind is Jim Rohn. So for those of you that have, probably listened to his content, Jim Rohn was someone that his audio was played a lot when he won. So the whole office would listen to Jim Rohn a lot. So a lot of principles, a lot of values. He would break down the most complex things and sound so simple. Like success is not something that you pursue. Success is something that you attract by the person you become. So the question is, who are you becoming? And all these little gems would drop into my head at like 21 years old. I'd be like, right, so what kind of man am I? I wouldn't be thinking, how much money do I want to make? How can I do this? I would say, right, that's going to be the side effect of the person that I am. So I was very conscientious, aware of I now need to make sure that the character I am right now, am I a better version a month from now? At the end of the year, can I look back and say I've actually improved my communication, my confidence, the way I speak to people? Have I increased my bank balance? Have I increased my skill set? It would all be, can I increase myself? Because the money's just going to catch up at a later stage. I don't need to worry about the money at this stage. So Jim Rohn, what a blessing he was to learn from.
That's
absolutely
great. Yeah.
Let me jump back to one thing you said before. Like one of your reason, like your why, was your family. And I really relate to that because I had a similar experience when I was 16 with my father. He had a stroke, so I really understand what it's like to see your family, your situation completely change from literally one day to tomorrow, right? But is there a moment where your why changed? Like right now, what's your why? Because you already achieved enough to take care of your family. I mean, you can always achieve more and more and more for that, but do you have a different reason why you're keep going, or it's just the person you are, with or without goals, you just keep going? What's your point of view on that?
It's an incredible question. It's a bit of both, and I've thought about this a lot.
Okay.
A couple of students have asked me this, and what's instinctive to me, and Ibrahim, who you've met, who I've known since 12 years old, we've always been these type of people, and I've always been the individual that, regardless, when I'm with my friends, even 12, 13, 14 years old, I would just push them to do more. It's like an instinct of me. Like if you're around me, you either can deal with it, because I'm not going to tolerate any bullshit. Right. I can't be around people that don't want to push themselves. It's so instinct as a young kid to just, but we can do this and we can do that. Oh, you're really good at that. I feel like I have a gift of highlighting people that suffer with confidence, low self-esteem. I'm just good. I'm really great at that. So I know and fully believe wholeheartedly, taking care of my family was, I want to say it's a why, but it was more so a responsibility. I almost want to say that I felt my why is to help people. My family, I almost see that as that's a given. That's a non-negotiable. You do that because you should be respectful to your family.
It was your duty.
Yeah, it's like a duty. That's my value. That's a duty for me to do that as a son. Where my why, when I wake up every day and feel what does I truly feel fulfilled about? I like knowing that the average person, the average man, woman, female, whatever you want to say, that writes themselves off, that comes from a negative environment, that doesn't think they're good enough, that don't believe they have enough skill to do it, is to change their life upside down to the positive.
That's amazing.
I love that. I love that.
I could do it forever. I could just keep on doing it. Why
Sure.
would I not?
Sure.
Yeah, so that's what I would say is my why has changed, because I was very mindful of that. You make a very, very valid point. After you looked after your family, do you relax? You're sipping margaritas on the beach, and I'm 100 miles an hour still every single day.
Love that. And that's the difference, in my opinion, between people who are that kind of person and people who just grind and grind and grind but never change themselves, because people can get results even without changing their identity if they do the stuff.
Of course.
But the thing is that when they get the goal, they then stop. So I really was interested in this answer. That's great.
It's just who you become.
Yeah.
And I find everything that you're sharing very, very inspiring, and I'm sure that many of the people watching us right now are finding this very inspiring, because your story is amazing. Everything that you shared are very, very interesting insights. We wanted to go also quickly on a different topic, because we talked about it yesterday, and I found very interesting as well the real estate part that you are developing, if I'm not wrong, with your brother.
Yes.
How did you approach that? When did you start? What are you doing right now in this moment? What is your project right now?
Yeah, so that's a great point, because it all links together. One thing I wanted to mention before I go into that, from the inner circle part, by the way, as a compliment to you guys from speaking to you yesterday, I think it's incredibly refreshing to see three people that just work together so well. I can sense that energy is very clear.
And
honestly,
we appreciate it.
Very, very refreshing to see that, and it inspired us, me and Ibrahim as well. I thought that was really, really cool how committed you guys are. Like, I love to see that, and that you're involved in all these things. And speaking of property, which I was really impressed with, that you guys are involved in that as well. So for me, my brother, he's been an architect by trade, but always interested in wanting to develop properties, do his own thing. He's had his own company for quite a few years now. He, done a lot of work for our family. He was like an apprentice architect and worked other jobs and eventually worked his way up to be a developer as well. So he has his architectural practice and he has a development company. So as you can imagine, as a young kid, he's my older brother. He's always talking about, right, this is the deal that I'm involved in, or these are the drawings. And I, was introduced into a bit of engineering, so I kind of could follow along to a degree. So I've been used to that my whole life. So when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, I probably know more than a lot of people about property because I'm so used to hearing it.
That's amazing.
Going to the site, seeing the drawings, even him talking about problems like this. Like steel didn't fit in, for example, like the beam didn't fit in, and what's the way around it? So many problems and hurdles happen where I saw that and I saw it got fixed. So I'd be used to thinking in a way, how do you overcome this problem? How do you overcome this? Why is the roof not sitting correctly? And what can we do to adjust? Lots of these like tiny little problems. And I realized if I'm going to build an empire, God forbid anything happened, right? Because I see what happened to my dad. God forbid anything happened to me without my control. If I can't trade, where does my money come from?
Right.
And that was always the question. If I need investments, I need things passive come that's working for me.
100%.
So we made this agreement and arrangement that it doesn't matter how much return and how much money you make in trading. There needs to be an end goal. How does the circuit, how does the trifecta, if you like, funnel into everything? So now it's trading was then going into property. We started off small, and I said, right, once I've got 7 figures and this becomes like a big deal, I can start making some serious money here. We can start to invest a decent amount, and I want to get involved in investing. So then I started that roughly around sort of 25, 26 years old. Is when it started getting a bit bigger. I'm nearly 32 now, so it's been a decent amount of time. I'm not a property expert by any means, but I've been around it enough to know how to invest, what to do, pitfalls, etc. But I've got the benefit of my brother's experience, who he's 10 years older than me, so he's been doing it for so long. I can always lean on that. And what I wanted to do for a long period of time, which I'm in the process of setting up now, which is the Falcon Property Fund. So that's essentially a way for our students to be able to eventually invest into that. So when they're making money at a degree that they don't know what to do with, because as you guys know, you've probably experienced, it's not just about making money, it's about keeping money. A lot of people make money.
Absolutely.
They just spend more of it. So it goes anyway. So what's the point? There needs to be like an empire. So we do this thing, which is if you was to build an empire, what would it look like? And most people, they like the idea of that. If I get good at trading, I've got a decent trading account, I'm making money. Yes, I want that car and that house, but what happens after that? Where's my money going to go? Is it going to be invested in stocks? Is it going to be real estate? Is it going to be a residential or commercial real estate? Where are you actually going to put your money?
Right.
So for us, it's about how do we tie everything together? Because imagine I teach a student, and you guys have probably done the same situation. Imagine you teach a student how to trade. He makes money, he does well, and then carries on his life path normally, maybe doesn't talk to you anymore, and he's been making £10,000 a month. If that person is not mentored correctly, doesn't have the right mindset, and doesn't have a game plan, they will eventually be broke. They will find ways to spend more money. They're like, we can go travel first class now because I'm making 10 grand a month.
Right.
It's going to go unless their identity gets fixed or they have a plan to invest that money into assets that's going to give them a return over time. So I'm obsessed with how everything links together versus, just be a trader. I think that just scratches the surface to me.
Yeah.
I think at a certain point, you realize that it's a need for you to learn investing and doing something different with your money, I think.
Yes.
So do you remember the exact moment where you realize that you need to do something different? You need to learn how to invest your money, how to allocate different assets your money? Or
I would say it was when I got my first real investment. So my first real investment was 300k. It was a tiny bit more, but for round numbers' sake, we'll just call it 300. That was when, because I remember making a trade, and the trade was a considerable amount, that I was like, right, this is actually enough that I could put a deposit on a house. So like it was that moment of realization. Like I knew it years prior, but I didn't ever experience it enough to just go,
sure,
this is actually a real thing. I can actually grow this account. Listen, even if I only make 60% for the year or 70%, whatever it is, at the end of the year, I would have enough funds to take care of myself. I'm not going to upgrade. This is what I've done really well. I never upgraded my lifestyle for so many years. Most people in the position that I was still living in a council house, right, when I had £500,000 trading account.
Wow.
I was still living
That's
in my
amazing. That's
original
amazing.
home, doing no one would know. I was still in an average car. No one would know how much money I got, and they would just think I'm just a normal guy. And they're like, "God, this guy he's unemployed because he's always at home."
Yeah,
in his
yeah.
bedroom." They don't even know. But that was because I had to take care of my family still, and I realized there's a bigger goal here. If I can give this a bit more time, I can start using that money, put it into a couple of property deals, and eventually I'll learn. I'll improve. Listen, some of them made money, some of them didn't, and now I'm skilled enough to know how to, of course, position myself correctly with my brother's help as well, which is amazing, to get involved in these things. And I've got a good prediction over the next 2 to 3 years. There's going to be incredible things that happen. Well, I mean, there's already deals happening right now, but I think in another couple of years, I'm kind of forecasting it like this. I have a bit of a timeline where I am focusing on getting a lot of our students up to speed where they've got more money to play with. And during that time, we're going to have everything set up so then they have the money to invest if they choose to.
Yeah,
Amazing.
sure.
Amazing. So you're working on the fund right now, actually.
Yes, yeah. So that we've got our in-house fund for trading,
Yeah.
and then we have the property fund, which is kind of getting put together at the moment, which is it's actually much more simple than we think. But we're going to take it a few ways. So there'll be ways where there'll be some joint ventures where people that have access to a bit more funds, they could get involved in certain deals.
Amazing.
And there'll be ways in which that, let's say someone has 100K is not going to access, big developments that we do.
Yeah.
But 100K, we may agree, say, for a round figure, 10%, for example.
Yeah.
That individual gets used to the fact that his 100K is making him 10K per annum. And
Right.
that within itself, the experience of just seeing that for the year will teach them so much for the future and how valuable it is to just have 10% here, 8% yield there. It's so powerful. People still underestimate the power of like a 12% yield because they're so
Of course.
focused on, but that trader made 60%, and it's not the same thing.
It's two different
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
I completely understand because in the beginning, honestly, I was thinking the same. So I was trading, with trading, you can make different percentages. And then when I wanted to make my first investment, my first real estate investment, I went to Mark, which was the person that helped me with my investments and that taught me everything that I know about real estate investments. And at that point I was kind of scared. I was like, okay, is it really worth it putting all of this money into a house that only gets 10, 12, 15%? I don't know. I was kind of scared. First time you're buying a house, you feel scared. And I would say that I was thinking about your situation, seeing your brother doing things since when you were young. It helps you kind of break that belief that real estate is risky or real estate is dangerous and all of these things. Now, of course, it can be dangerous, but if you have all the data in your hands and you know how to look at the data, then you can make right decisions. So this thing was really, really important, I would say. And then after I made the first one and I listened to Mark and I learned everything from him, then it was just easier and easier every time. And I kept going with my investments and it just felt normal. And people a lot of times don't understand the difference between trading and actually staying in front of charts, making money with trading and then investing that money to build something bigger. That's another part of your life, of your financial life, or your life in general, I would say, that needs to be considered. But a lot of people...
You just need to understand that you are doing something different with a different perspective. And in the long term, because trading is normally in short term, so...
shorter,
maybe. So what's difficult is to understand that you just need to change the way you invest, basically.
Yeah, your approach.